The war in Ukraine is now in its fifth month, and any hope of a quick resolution to the conflict has vanished. Last week, President Biden announced yet another $820 million aid package to the embattled nation, even as the administration itself is tempering expectations. Last week, U.S. Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines laid out three scenarios for how the conflict could end, some far less optimistic than the U.S. had initially hoped for. Here to bring some more insight is Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's Bill Roggio. Bill, always good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
All right, so before we get to the scenarios laid out by DNI Haines, what are things looking like right now on the ground in Ukraine? Not a lot of reporting about it.
Yeah, the Russians took control of two cities, Lyshansk and Severodonetsk. So they've essentially consolidated full control of Luhansk province. That's one of the two provinces that make up the Donbas region. The other, Donetsk, that's the Russians are on the move there. Look, we keep hearing that, the Russians don't have morale. They're losing equipment. They're losing men at a rapid pace, and yet they're still advancing on the ground. Today, they're advancing towards a small city called Siversk, and they're moving to look to take on the last two major cities in Donetsk province. Whether the Ukrainians can hold them or not, I think after what we witnessed, the Russian offensive in the last 2 months, it's grinding. But it's effective. It's brutally effective. This is what I expected them to do in Kiev, and they tried to do a lightning assault, and it seems the Russians have reorganized. The reporting has become from Ukraine on the Ukrainian side has become a lot more grim. It was very hopeful 2 months ago after the Battle of Kiev, and now we're talking. You have the National Director of Intelligence talking about something we discussed that months ago about those three scenarios, and that two of them are not very good for Ukraine.
So now let's look at these scenarios that have been laid out in this. I think was it a leaked assessment, Bill, that everyone's reporting on now, or at least some assessment the government has. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how this came out. I thought it was public, but yes, basically the Director of National Security, Avril Haines, said that, look, there's three things, there's three outcomes here. The first could be the Russians can break through and take even more territory in Ukraine. And I think that's what we're seeing now. Everyone thought they were going to hold the Russians at Siversk. Once that front broke, the Russians advanced a pretty significant amount of territory. They advanced 10 miles in several days. And I know that might not seem like a lot, but in this type of war and on the battlefield, that's significant considering the fighting. So that's the first scenario, that the Russians make a game. The second scenario is that this thing turns into a World War I type stalemate. And then the third scenario is that the Ukrainians can drive out the Russians. I think that third scenario really has been shelved at this point based on what U.S. officials are saying. I never thought that was very realistic given the Russian military capabilities. And I think we're seeing the first and second scenarios being more likely. The Ukrainians are taking significant losses, 100 to 200 soldiers a day killed, up to 500 wounded. These are the Ukrainians' best troops, and they're giving up ground and taking significant casualties. I don't think they're fighting very smart. And that's why that first option, the Russian breakthrough, the Russian takeover of significant territory, this is the one. Again, we were warning about this, 1 to 2 months ago, Buck, and people were just poo-pooing this as being impossible, but now it is a possibility.